Everyone Love Learning podcast. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to welcome Bruce Outridge to my show. Bruce is the kindest person that I've ever met in Canada. He is so kind. Let me tell you, Bruce is so welcoming. I'm going to have him introduce himself, but he's a podcast producer. I think I was like number 41. He's like over 1,100 podcasts. He's a host. He's a producer. He's a professional cartoonist. He's a graphic recorder. He does illustrations. I know he helps the community. He has a good soul. Bruce, thank you for coming on my podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're passionate about?
I think you just did that. Thanks very much. God, that's so cool. You were episode 400 on the Lead Pill.
Oh, I was 400. Okay, I knew I had a 4 in it, but I couldn't remember.
Even number. Gina, so I'm excited to be on. Congratulations. Yeah. It's cool to see you having your own podcast because I don't think the last time we spoke, when did you start this? Because I saw you last June here in Canada. And I don't think you had it going then, did you? Or were you...
No, Bruce, what happened was I've been wanting to do this and I've been watching you and watching other colleagues. And I said, I want to share about people who have the mind of a champion. And I've been waiting. And it's like, what am I waiting for? One of my acquaintances says, Gina, what are you waiting for? Just do it. And I'm like, you know what? That's right.
Just do it. That is, Nike got that. Thanks for the nice introduction. Yes, I've done all of that. I know people get confused as to what I do. So basically I'm an artist and a media entrepreneur is the way I put it. But my wife and I have 3 different businesses. She has a translation business, English, French, the media business, which is the podcast, radio station. I have a television show here in Burlington. And then the art business, the caricature events and all of that kind of stuff is my art business. And it's just 2 of us running 3 businesses. We work hard, but we love what we do. So it's very cool.
Wow, that's amazing. That is incredible. You have 3 businesses. I can't even run one, and you have 3, Bruce.
Well, you have 3. It's the way it works, and it's one of those things. I don't know if you know that I've got a number of books out, and the last book I had is called "You're Not Done Yet." And this is why I don't think you're ever done. I'm the kind of person that's always willing to try something. If I like it, I go, hey, you know what? Can I do more with that? And that's how it goes.
Wow, yeah, that defines kind of this idea of having a mind of a champion. Really what do you think inspired you to become an entrepreneur and to work towards these 3 businesses? Really, what is that helped you get there?
It's funny because I was listening to your podcast the other day with somebody else. You guys were talking about happiness. The first one of January. I forget who the lady was that was on with you. But we were I was thinking about that and I go, it's funny that everything has been spawned out of a bad moment in time. We often think that when things are going good is when we're going to get the next opportunity, mine has come from quitting school, going through a divorce, all these things is when it's like, and then you try something or you go and you correct it, finish school or go to a course or whatever it is. And then before you know it, you're doing something else. And that's what's happened to me over life.
Wow. So really having those hurdles, right? So can you talk about specifically, if someone's going through I did a talk yesterday in San Antonio and somebody came up to me yesterday afterwards and said that there was a driver that was going through a divorce and really wasn't performing that well. And so when you think about these hurdles in your life that stood in the way, how did you overcome that to become an entrepreneur? Because like you said, quitting school, people would think, well, you have to go to school or you have to be quote unquote successful. How did you overcome that?
Well, I'll try to give you the short note. When I quit school, I was 17 and I just hated school. And I like to draw, but nobody back in the 70s, nobody offered you art classes or anything. My parents were from Guyana. They year before I was born, so they didn't know anything about art schools here. I'm sure they didn't have that in Guyana. So they didn't know channel his energy here. So everybody just said, get a job. And I just hated school. I was getting 50 in everything. But I like to work. And so my dad said, okay, you can quit school, but guess what? You're not sitting around the house. Go get a job. And I ended up in the trucking industry. I fell into trucking. And that's how I started in the moving industry as a helper, got my license. I've been in that over 40 years. I've been in the trucking industry now. But when I went through the divorce, back to your question about the driver. That's a very hard thing. And when I went through my divorce, I did not see it coming. I did not know I was going to be getting divorced. I did maybe because on the road, I don't know. I could have been blind, but I did not see it coming. So I was very, very upset. And there was a period of time, probably I'm going to say a year or two, where things did not go well, because it's a very hard thing for anybody to go through. But I was smart enough to go through counseling. And my mother at the time said, why don't you finish what you didn't finish earlier, meaning my school. I had like 4 credits to get a grade 12. I never had my grade 12.
Wow.
I went back to continuing education, and by doing that, I was able to pick the subjects. I started taking things like creative writing, media courses, English for business, all those kind of things that I'm using today that I didn't realize were even available back. Nobody said, hey, you can watch a TV and tell us all the television angles. And that's cool. That's a cool.
Wow.
But that was part of the course. And so doing that, I learned to write. I didn't know I could write an article. I didn't read books until that point. And all of that spawned it. Now today I'm using all of those things in today. So I think if people are willing to take a step back and just go, okay, how do I understand the divorce is bad. You can't, you kind of have to go through that, but you don't have to go through it alone. And going back to school or trying a training will take your mind off it a little bit and hopefully bring you to a new point in your life when you come out of it. That's really what's happened with me.
That's incredible. Congratulations, Bruce. That is, I mean, you really had to overcome that. And, sometimes people just can't move forward in that way. So I commend you. I mean, you definitely have a mind of a champion. I mean, you didn't go to school. Like you said, you dropped out at an early age, but you came back and found your passion and mission. And look at you. I mean, Bruce is like the kindest person. You go into a room and he comes up and he makes conversation. And oh my goodness, Bruce, really what makes you happy? You make everybody happy. Like I was at the conference at the National Private Truck, Association conference, and you just exude goodness and happiness. So really what makes you happy, what drives you and really gets you to want to continue to grow?
There's those people that are introverts, extroverts. I did the test and I'm in the middle.
I am too.
So I actually love private time. I'm not always in a good mood. I know it looks, but I'm not always in a good mood. But people actually energize me. When I go into a conference, I love being there. I love, meeting people, and I'm really there to get the education. And, that conference, I know a lot of the people in that room. So it's fun. It's like seeing your good friends again. And I really enjoy that. And I think that's, I think when people go to stuff, you need to be present and enjoy it. Most people go and go, okay, I'm going to be there, but they're on their phone. They're not really engaging or meeting, people in the room. And I try to meet everybody in the room, A, for content, and B, for just I like people. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something like that.
That's outstanding. What makes you happy, Bruce?
I'm happy when things are going well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I enjoy everything I do. I like to talk. You probably figured that out already. So being behind a mic is natural. But I didn't know that back in high school. Love to draw. I was just in Barbados for a number of. When I'm in Barbados, I draw old houses and I love to go sit on a rock and just draw for 2 hours. That is really very relaxing to me. Being in the Caribbean, just being around people that enjoy laughing and there's no stress and no politics, any of that kind of stuff. That's what really makes me happy. If you're doing what you love to do and you can make enough money to do what you need to do, then you're in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like trying to help people find that and find their passion. Recently the Surgeon General came out and he mentioned that 1 in 4 adults are lonely. Can you believe that? 1 in 4 adults. And what you just described is a way, if not everyone can go to Barbados, but there are opportunities that you can find resources to help you be happy, right?
I think you need to find what you enjoy doing. Like I'm one of these, I didn't know any about, so if you think about all the stuff I'm doing now, a radio station, I have a television show, a podcast, and we were, over 1,100 episodes. I did not even know what a microphone was when I started.
Wow.
So when I got to this point where I was doing my art business and I go, okay, I've got all this trucking knowledge. How do I use that? And I got on the speaking circuit, kind of like what you're doing there, and was doing industry events, and thought, okay, I've got this knowledge I can give back to drivers. And I was, but I didn't want to be a trainer. Like I didn't want to go work for someone else and be a trainer for, driving around in trucks and stuff. I thought I had more. I don't know if I do or not, but I've always liked business and career. And I thought a podcast is a way to do that. And I didn't know anything about it, but I'm the kind of person, if I say I'm going to learn it, boy, I dive into every article about podcasts and every podcast and I listen to podcasts every day, and I love it. I think it's the medium for me, and radio is kind of just the next step.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, you can hear it in your voice, Bruce, that you really have a passion. Like you really have a passion for learning. What do you think? Like, I mean, it sounds like podcasts are authentic to you, but what is authentic learning? It seemed like school wasn't authentic to you because you dropped out. So what does a meaningful learning experience to you look like?
I have to watch when I go into schools that they don't kick me out, because I sound like I'm anti-school, and I'm not I love learning now. I didn't when I was younger, but I don't think it needs to be done in four walls. I think that's where a lot of our problem is. They put everybody in a classroom and they don't really take them out. And I know there's good teachers, so I don't want to get on that bandwagon. But for me, I love reading now. I read a book every month. That's
wow. What's a book you could recommend? What should people be reading today?
Probably the G Myth is one big one. If you've never heard of Profit First, that's the latest one I was just reading, and we're working on our business doing that. There's so many. I only read self-help books.
Yeah.
I've never read a fiction book. I don't know what, because I need so much help. I'm still working on myself. It'll get there one day. But learning stuff. So I try to read a book a month. I try to listen to a podcast when I go for my walks every morning. I listen to, about 3 podcasts. So for those of you making long podcasts, 2 hours long, my walk is less than an hour. So
20 minutes, Bruce. People's attention spans.
These ones who are making 2-hour podcasts turn me off because I go, I'm not going to get to it. I like 20-minute, 50. I can listen to 3 of those. So
right.
Numbers, make them shorter.
Absolutely.
But no, and I go to seminars whenever I can. I'm part of a lot of the associations here in the area, and I think you learn from everywhere. And the most important thing for me is I learn from other industries. So when you start podcasting, a lot of podcasters go, I'm going to do what that podcaster does. No. I looked at radio. I said, how's a radio personality keep somebody engaged when they can't see them, they can't read a remark from them, they can't talk to them? How does someone keep somebody engaged for 3 hours doing that? And when I looked at my podcast, I go, how can I make it more like a radio station? So, having some jingles, having just, all those things you hear on radio to keep the energy up. Without the music, you can't have the music depending on what you're doing. But you can still keep the energy up and keep yourself up, keep segments shorter or whatever. And so when someone downloads all your episodes, like I downloaded 3 of your shows yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
It's like just going on the radio. It's like you're just changing shows, right? And the other thing for podcasting is I rarely subscribe to people's shows. I pick podcast episodes based on what I'm thinking about that day. So if I'm thinking about this, I go, okay, I need 3 business podcasts. Or maybe I'm thinking about, health. And I found some great podcasts that way that you normally wouldn't come across because I was searching by keyword of what I wanted to learn as opposed to,
Got it.
Podcast all the time. So
that's amazing. So your view of authenticity can change any day because we learn all the time, everywhere. And I always say this whenever I'm doing a talk, it's like the worst opportunity to absorb or retain information because of not only the environment, but it might not be the environment that you prefer to learn. Right. So always learning. Bruce, when we talk about this idea of learning, was there a time in your life that something had an impact that kind of switched where you are today, kind of your thinking, like really left an impact of who you view yourself or who you are today? Can you think of a time maybe?
I think it's when I was going through that divorce. I went back to school, and the thing is, this could be a 4-hour program, but we won't make it that day.
No, I love it. Share it. Yeah.
School, and I got into trucking, and people think you don't make any money trucking. I don't know why. My dad, my family's full of accountants. My dad, and I remember seeing, I don't know if I saw a pay slip or something when I was young, that he made $50,000 a year. I didn't know, anything, how much money that was. But I thought, if my dad makes $50,000 a year, I'll know I made it when I'm making $50,000 a year. Well, that happened in the second year of trucking. I'm like, wow. I'm like 23 and I'm making $50,000 a year. So okay, so, how does this really work? And I was making good money until I wanted to upgrade. I felt there was more. So I said, I want to be in the truck for 25 years. But after that, there's got to be more to doing what I'm doing. I ended up being in the truck for the 25 years, but right after that, at 43. So at 45, I said, I'm going to get out of the truck. At 43, I got out of the truck. I became the boss of a fleet.
Wow. Okay.
But it's because I went through that divorce and I went back to school. They were looking at promotions, and right then I was taking technology courses, and that's what they were looking for because our expense reports were all going from paper to online and all that kind of stuff. I was the youngest of the team. That's how I got promoted. And because I had some good teachers there that said, no, you're not. I used to think I was stupid for the longest time. And, I realized I'm not. And business really helped. Business, when you become the owner of your business, you realize you are equal to the president of somebody else. They might be a bigger company. They might have more money, whatever. But you are on the same level now. And so people need to treat you at that level. I'm a business owner just like everybody else. I'm no more, right? So I found that to help. My mindset is something I'm still working on to this day. The reason that I have my book, it's the reason I have my television show. It's just you can do this. It doesn't matter what level of education. It's about some hard work. It's about being a little creative, and it's about really getting passionate about what you want to do. It's dive into it. I find people say they're passion until it becomes work, and then they don't want to do it. Well, I still want to do it. There's days you have not seen the days when I'm behind the mic and there's nobody listening, and it's at midnight and nobody.
Oh no!
And I'm going, why am I doing this? Is anybody even listening to this? But you know what? You learn mic techniques. You learn how to position cameras. You learn a lot of things that help you down the road in other areas.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned something about people seeing like it's a passion until it becomes work, and then it's not a passion. And I think that's what happens sometimes is you really dive in and then you're like, what am I doing? So what would you say to someone? Obviously, you said you're always working on your mindset, and that's so important, right? Every day we all work on our mindset. If someone is struggling, Bruce, and they've lost their passion, maybe for work or they don't know where to go, they need help and they've lost their passion, what would you, given what you've been through and kind of what you're going through, advice would you pass on to them?
Well, a lot of us are stuck, and when I say us, we're all stuck no matter what. A lot of us are stuck in, we can't leave that job because that's your paycheck, and things are tough for everybody right now. So, you got to pay the rent, you got to do that. So a lot of people feel I can't leave this job, but it doesn't mean you can't learn something else. Pastime or, a hobby or whatever. And it doesn't have to be a hobby that makes money. This is the thing. A lot of the stuff I've done, not everything I do makes money. I know I like to, but I'm willing to give it a year. If I start something, I go, okay, I'm willing to do this for a year and give it my most. If after a year it's either not worth my time or can't make the money or whatever it is, I will throw it out. And I've had a cartoon store. I thought everybody wanted cartoons. Everybody's asking me. I found out after a year they want you to draw the cartoon. They don't want to buy something that's already created. So this store, I got rid of the store. Asked for that stuff, but everybody said, yeah, I want your cartoons. Same with so all of this stuff, try it for a year. Do something. It doesn't have to be work related. A lot of people think, I got to go and do a hobby that's work. Do whatever you like. Even, I don't know anything about flowers, but if you like to arrange flowers,
yes,
help somewhere else down the road, whether it's just beautifying your office at work, whether it's helping somebody else on a wedding or whatever it might be. There's opportunities for that. And before you know it, you will grow into that. And that might be a new full-time opportunity for you if that's what you want to do with it.
I have never thought about that. I love flowers. Maybe I'll try that, Bruce. Try it for a year. That's a great idea. That's awesome. Yeah. I like that you say try it for a year, because oftentimes people might start something and give up in a few weeks. So definitely committing to it, having the grit to do it. Goodness. I mean, one thing you mentioned and said that, you didn't feel, you said you didn't feel smart. I mean, that to me is like, it's like the opposite of how any environment for learning should make anyone feel, whether it's an adult or a child, giving them an environment that they can thrive, giving people in the work environment an environment they can thrive. We need to connect and care about each other. It's so critical to our well-being and our mental health and helping people develop these passions for learning. Bruce, is there anything else that you want to share today on my podcast being here? I'm so glad to have you. Well, any final words for us?
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I just want everybody to know you're not done yet. And if you would like, people can go to bruceoutridge.com/you're not done yet, and they can get a free copy of the book, a PDF copy. You can download it if you want. So people can go there if they want to read the book. It's kind of an action book where you read about some changes, and then you have a little exercise to do for yourself. But just find something you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, you will do it. Don't worry about the money. Everybody's worried about the money. Don't worry about the money. Yes, you need to live, but if you're learning new things, those are going to come across in your job. Even if I was working for a trucking company today, if I told them, well, I'm good with the radio and the podcast, don't think they're going to go, well, we could use that. Trust me, I'm part of is going, Bruce, can you bring your speakers and your mic tonight? So there's a lot of that. And you know what? It's because over time I've just practiced and gotten better and try new things. Everybody wants you to succeed. Just go and try it. You're on stage, right? How many speakers think that, they're worried about failing? There's nobody in that room that wants you to fail. There's nobody going, boy, I hope Gina falls down off the stage today, because that's going to be.
Yeah, they'd laugh though. They would laugh, but yeah, absolutely not.
I tell people if that's staying in because it's a viral moment, and I'm going to. But everybody wants you to succeed on that stage, and usually the person who doesn't want you to succeed is you. You're the one going, oh man, I missed that sentence, or I didn't say that and I wanted to say that, or I didn't say it correctly. Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows that you weren't supposed to say that. So as long as you're prepared, that's one thing that's big for me, is just being prepared. My radio shows, they're not scripted to the word, but they are scripted where I know what's coming up next and so I can talk to it. So just be prepared. Don't be afraid to try new opportunities and say yes to everything if you want. And you'll find a lot of stuff comes out at the end for sure.
I love that, Bruce. All right, everyone. Bruce gave you the book to download, and I'm going to repost it. Bruce, where else can they find you? I mean, you're all over the place. If somebody wants to reach out for advice or to connect with you, where can they find you?
I would just put Bruce Outridge in any platform that you're on, and I will come up, because we've got the Lead Pedal podcast, which is the trucking stuff, and Bruce Outridge. I'm Bruce Outridge on LinkedIn, so that's probably the easiest way. I think most of your people might be on LinkedIn, so try Bruce Outridge on LinkedIn. You should find me there, no problem.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce, for joining us today. I appreciate you, and keep doing greatness.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on the show, Gina. All the best with the future.